Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Herp Monday number 38 and we have a good one for you today. Today's Herp is one of those that you've seen in pet stores, but many people probably haven't taken that leap and gotten this as pet, and probably for a good thing. However, they are really cute as a baby. Today we are going to be talking about the African spurred tortoise. So the African spurred tortoise, or scientific name Centrocheles sulcata. Again, that is Centrocheles sulcata. Hopefully that name rings a bell for you. It is part of the family Testudinidae. Again, that is Testudinidae. Oh, I think I said that wrong. But it is the family of tortoises. As you can imagine. So one of the common names that a lot of people know this animal by is actually the Sulcata tortoise. That is why I was hoping that you had heard that term before, Sulcata. These tortoises are native to the Saharan desert. Oh my goodness. They're native to the Saharan desert and an ecoregion called the Sahel. The Sahel is a transitional ecoregion, really going from the Sahara Desert to other ecoregions. Because of this, it's kind of obvious that this prefers arid grasslands, savannas, and thorn shrublands. So think your, savannas, your dry grasslands, as I just said, arid, being a dry environment. They don't really want to be just perfectly in the Sahara Desert, but they really can't be in very moist areas. These are a burrower. These are a burrowing tortoise. These burrow very deep, up to about 15 meters deep and 30 meters long. I think those are like the max depths and long. Usually they're not digging that deep, but they can be very, very extensive burrows. And the reason why they burrow is they're burrowing to get to areas with much higher moisture levels to keep them from drying out during the very hot summer days or even just the hot spring and fall days as well. And usually around their burrows there's a bunch of grasslands, or not grasslands, grasses and forbs that they use to kind of create a miniature door to the burrow itself. And they'll eat on those grasses, but they are, since this is their home burrow, they usually heavily fertilize it with their own feces. But about the sulcata is the third largest species of tortoise in the world. The Galapagos and the Aldabra giant tortoises are bigger than the sulcatas, but the sulcata is the largest mainland tortoise in the world. Most of your giant tortoises are island tortoises. However, the Sulcata has made it work in the mainland when there is much more there are many more predators for this. They have a reported maximum size of 83 centimeters, which is about 32.5 inches. And the heaviest recorded one was 105 kilograms, which that is right about 232 pounds. So these things are still significantly larger than what other people might think. Aldabras are also, enormous, but the Sulcata is nothing to shake a stick out. As you can see, they have a sand or dirt colored, basically throughout their entire body. That helps them blend in with their sandy, dry environments that they're native to. They have a relatively low domed carapace that's relatively flattened in the center. Some of your other tortoises really have a big dome on theirs. These are much more oval and very flattened compared to other tortoises. They have this very thick yellowish brown skin, especially on the front legs. And they also have some scales or spurs on their legs. And the reason why they have this very thick skin, it looks like it's just, warty and things like that. These tortoises, when they are threatened, what they will do is they'll pull their head straight back into their shell and use their forearms to kind of cover their head since they can't really close their shell. So they're using that thick skin and on their forearms to really protect their head from predators. In fact, sulcata, the scientific name, actually comes from the Latin word sulcus, which means furrow. So that is actually referring to the deep furrows on the scales on the tortoise. Now, hatchlings, which many people see, hatchlings are tan to light in coloration, you know, much more colorful. They get these very darker growth rings around the carapace. You can see this one is trying to pull its head in, but it's still a little too small from there. But this is where most people are going to see them. The issue is that they grow from this little hatchling, you know, 2-3 inches straight out of the edge. Then they get to 6 to 10 inches, which would be a little bit bigger than this within the first few years. So that'd be going from about 5 centimeters to about 15 to 25 centimeters within the first few years of their life. And then they continue growing, and they can live up to 70 years. You can see why that can create an issue for this being in the pet trade. However, as you can tell, even in the hatchlings and in the adults, they have very strong limbs that are very well clawed. That helps with their burrowing. Now, these are an herbivorous tortoise, as are most tortoises. They're going to eat grasses and plants, and they really like flowers and succulent plants. In fact, one of their favorite foods apparently is cactus pads. But just a little interesting fact is this tortoise can go for weeks without food or water. And when it finds a water source, it can actually drink up to 15% of its body weight. So you think about that being, you know, if you have a 200-pound tortoise, which is not that uncommon, that would mean that this tortoise could drink up to 30 pounds of water at a single time. So that is definitely something to be aware of. Now, this is very popular in the pet trade. I have said this, and this is where we're going to be an interesting fact that we're going to end the video on, and also advice to any potential tortoise owners out there. This is popular in the pet trade. However, many people are very unsuccessful in raising this tortoise. And the reason why is because they get them when they're babies, when they're fresh out of their shell, or when they're this, and they're, you know, a couple of inches, and people aren't thinking about the long-term consequences. You know, when you think about it, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, they're getting much closer, you know, to this size. Maybe not quite that, but they're getting to where you can't keep them inside. And so what a lot of people do is they wind up getting rid of them, which can cause more problems. So definitely this needs to be something that you have to be aware of whenever you get this. I'm not saying that these make bad pets. They are extremely gentle as tortoises, and if you know, feed them and take care of them and make sure that you're handling them very often when they're young, they are actually known to be very gentle. They do not bite. There have been some accidental bites when you're feeding them, but a lot of owners of these that have taken proper care of them feed them by hand. So they'll come up and they'll get their food straight from their owner's hands. But as I was saying, the adults, after a while, not even the adults, the teenagers, once they get to a certain size, you can't really keep them indoors anymore. You got to keep them outdoors. And the adults really need an outdoor enclosure with at least 100 square feet of space per tortoise. And these really don't like being kept in groups. You can maybe have a 1 male to like 2 or 3 females. I would highly suggest doing 1 male, maybe 2 females, but they do just fine solitary. And honestly, 100 square feet of space, I'd probably, if it was my tortoise, I'd probably try and increase that by 50% to 100%. So 150 to 200 square feet of space per tortoise. These things really like to roam around. They like to walk around. But more importantly, they like to dig. And this is where a lot of people mess up with their tortoises, even the ones that are trying to do right. They just don't understand how to do that. And because of this tortoise being a burrower, these cannot be near the foundation of the house. There are numerous instances out there where they've gotten this tortoise, they're trying to do right, and they build an outdoor enclosure, but what they do is they'll build that enclosure and try and cheap out on it and build only 3 walls, but have it right next to the house. And what that tortoise will sometimes do is they'll burrow underneath the house, which causes the foundation to crack and shift on theirs, which just causes a very bad living situation and expensive fix to a problem that could have been solved by moving the enclosure away from the house. But something else that a lot of people don't realize is that because of their burrows, and when I say this, it's going to go through your brain like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, but not a lot of people would have thought of this, is that the fence also needs to extend below ground, usually about a couple of feet. Just a couple of feet below ground seems to deter all of their digging through the fence. They'll actually stay within their enclosure at that point. So, you know, that's one of the #1 problems with people, and this, besides people buying this and not being prepared in general, but the people that are trying to get this and raise this properly, usually the #1 thing that they mess up on is they do not extend that fence a couple of feet below ground. But if you take care of this, they eat a lot of different foods, leafy greens. They're not that hard to feed, as long as you're making sure they're getting their proper vitamins and minerals, and they make a great pet that you, your kids, and potentially even your grandkids can enjoy. You know, this thing living much, up to 70 years, that's an incredible thing. And what a family heirloom to pass on if you're doing it properly and with the right set of mind. But thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. I hope to see you again. I love reading the comments. Please continue sending suggestions for future videos. I love to hear all of them. What do people want to hear? What do people want to see? But thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your loved ones. And peace.